I'd just like to take a moment to show you the sleeping bag cover that we make in dry shell fabric. It's a really simple sleeping bag cover, but quite clever. Peter Hutchinson designed it, and he spotted an application, particularly in snow holes or in camping situations, where covering the sleeping bag with a waterproof fabric was not a bad idea at all. So I just want to show you how this works and why it's such a useful piece of kit. Just to demonstrate it, I've put it over a Minim 400 bag. This Minim 400 is made in a typical lightweight, soft ripstop nylon material. In this case it's M1 fabric. We've used it for years on a lot of sleeping bags. It's very soft and tough and downproof and so on. So it's a super fabric for sleeping bags, but it has no waterproof qualities, no proofing at all, except DWR spray treatment on the fabric. It's very common. All sleeping bag, or most sleeping bag manufacturers, use that sort of technique. So the fabric proofing, the DWR proofing sprayed on, it causes water to bead and run off. You see it on waterproofs when they're brand new. The trouble is, DWR treatments are very short-lived. They get rubbed off very quickly. So it's not a proper waterproofing treatment. It's very short-term. Now, what Peter spotted was that if we make it a lightweight cover from a fully waterproof fabric, just to go over the top of the bag, that really protects it, particularly in those situations where you get condensation in the tent and in small tents. It's impossible really not to rub up against the sides of the tent, particularly if it's a race scenario, a small tent and two people in it and things like that. So this cover is made out of dry shell, which is a waterproof fabric, and the way it's been proofed is the outer is a ripstop nylon as normal, but the inner has a spray treatment on it, a PU coating that's permanent. It can't come off. You might just be able to see it. It's that white milky layer on the inside of the fabric. So the cover gives some waterproof properties to your sleeping bag. Now, it's not a full waterproof bivvy bag. The side seams along here and along the base are not taped. And why is that? Well, the fabric is just far too light to be taped. When you seam seal or hot tape a seam that's been stitched, the fabric has to be fairly heavy, and the proofing has to be fairly heavy because it actually melts and bonds with the tape. But with these very lightweight fabrics like dry shell, ultrashell, hypershell, you can't tape them. They're just not robust enough. Effectively they'd melt and not tape the proofing. If it did attach, it would strip off very quickly. So they're lightweight. Now that means that the seams and the bottom there are where a bit of moisture could get through. But when you consider that and compare it to a sleeping bag construction, which has all these stitch lines across it, those are weak problems. So even if that bag was made out of dry shell or ultrashell, a waterproofed material, there are points where there are holes in that fabric where moisture could get through. So this actually is a really good quality booster and improvement to a sleeping bag in its ability to stop condensation, drips or wetness from the wall of a tent getting through. Of course, we make waterproof type bivvy type gear like the Snowline, and we can put a fully taped waterproof shell on a sleeping bag like Dry LX or HS2 we've done in the past, but Dry LX is the current lightest one we use, and that will shell a sleeping bag, but it adds considerably to the weight and the packed down bulk size, the stuff sack size. So this really lightweight sleeping bag cover is it's a pretty good idea to boost the performance of your sleeping bag and to really protect it from dampness getting into the down. All right, cheers.